to the Russia hoaxers is identified as a left-wing activist called Brian Netter. And you know who Netter's working for now? A group chaired by Mark Elias. And that its disclosure could cause serious damage or exceptionally grave damage to the national security of the United States. What? Is he a foreign agent?
We want them to pay a price. We want the Comys and the Brennans and those guys to pay a price for what they did. It's illegal.
That's right, we do. More evidence continues to drop that shows exactly how bad this Obama coup was. We went through the report that was the Durham Annex that was recently declassified and released for all of us to see, and saw specifically how they came out and said that we need to create this narrative, saying, just make it up. Say something like critical infrastructure threat for the election to feel menace, you know? And all of that came, apparently, according to Kash Patel at the FBI, from a burn bag tucked away somewhere. He said, we uncovered this annex along with thousands of other documents buried in a back room at the FBI. It revealed a highly classified piece of the Durham report, evidence that the Clinton campaign plotted to frame President Trump and fabricate the Russia collusion hoax. We worked with Chairman Grassley and declassified the documents immediately. And now the American people can see the truth for themselves. The Russia hoax was a disgrace that President Trump and our country should have never been put through. This should be a step toward justice. There will be more to come. Your FBI will be relentless to get the truth out. We're thankful for our federal partners at the DOJ and CIA and more. And thank you to Chuck Grassley for your tireless work. Now, in addition to that, more evidence coming out. You see, Molly Hemingway got this exclusive over from the Federalist. Big questions about how the Russia collusion hoax was instigated. We had multiple kind of facets to it. We had the Carter Page FISA warrant and the fake evidence that was manipulated by Kevin Kleinsmith in order to secure those warrants. We had the pre-Hillary stuff that was all created, the Clinton plan that the CIA knew about and briefed Obama on before the election. We knew Loretta Lynch was getting apparently briefed or having conversations with Hillary people, and then when she was briefed by McCabe, she didn't even care about it, apparently. Just sat there, poker face, because she knew she got caught, but they weren't going to do anything about it, so she didn't have to say much. The list goes on and on, but it also goes down the chain. And the question, of course, is who is approving these investigative avenues? And Molly Hemingway is breaking this one down, saying the DOJ official who actually approved a lot of this stuff, especially the $2 million payout to the Russia hoaxers, is identified as a left-wing activist called Brian Netter. And you know who Netter's working for now? A group chaired by Mark Elias. You know, Mark Elias, because we've talked a lot about him here, because he's the guy who was, in my opinion, colluding with Michael Sussman to try to facilitate the seeding of the Russia collusion hoax on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign when he was working for Perkins Coie. The DOJ official who signed off on the payments to the Russia hoax participants that left the DOJ to lead the resistance has now been exposed. FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok and his mistress, FBI lawyer Lisa Page, they sued the DOJ over the release of messages. Remember this? Detailing their role. They say, hey, if we want to cheat on our spouses, that's our problem. You can't release our private text messages that say, we will stop him, baby. I love you, Lisa. We're gonna stop Trump. Oh, you're so heroic, Peter. Get another room. They already did. They said that the release of the messages that they were written, they were using government resources, and we can have our sex affairs on government property if we want to. And it violated our privacy rights. And so they sued. They know that they had inside moles inside the administration, and they got lucrative payout. But this is the thing. When they left or got fired, Strzok got fired, they sue, and then the people inside settle with them and give them a big fat deal. So who did it? Well, Brian Netter, Deputy Assistant Attorney General. He's the one who approved these agreements. We got a FOIA request that brought this to news, and the payouts were publicly announced all during the term of Joe Biden. So you see how it works. It's all part of the broad conspiracy. You do the bad thing, and if you do it in the sake and the interest of the agency, for the good of the agency, they'll take care of you afterwards. And they just plug you right into the pipeline. Peter Strzok hangs out on MSNBC. He's got, like, you know, all sorts of media accolades because the media, in many cases, is also interfacing with the intelligence agencies. And so it's just a pipeline. You come through, you do your dirty work, you get fired, you get in trouble, you go out, they give you a payoff, and you go now sit around with Jen Psaki all day, who is also doing the same thing on behalf of Joe or Obama. Now, Netter currently serves as the legal director at Democracy Forward, which, of course, is a Democrat Party affiliated group that wants to fight Trump. So he was in the DOJ, settling for the Coosters, and then leaves and opens up an anti-Trump group. Now, Mark Elias also was working against Trump. Mark Elias filing lawsuits all over the country back during COVID, saying the election rules have to be changed because senior citizens are going to die, and so we need more drop boxes, more mail-in balloting, universal signature presumptions, and all the things, or else everyone's going to lose their democracy. That guy. He also, in my opinion, was involved with the coup attempt by Michael Sussman, Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, Igor Danchenko, all of them working together on behalf of Hillary, and Obama knew it and enabled it anyways, and the FBI knew it and they didn't investigate it. Other current and recent board members also include John Podesta, Ron Klain, Kamala's sister Maya, and others, including Mindy Myers. Now, to hide the Russia hoax origins, the funding was fraudulently run through Elias's law firm. Remember this? They called it legal services. I'm so glad they brought this up. Clinton was fined only $113,000 for false claims that she made to hide her role. We've made this point many times, but remember, Trump got 34 felonies for falsifying business records, they said, when he wrote checks to Michael Cohen. Clinton, she got a fine, okay, $113,000 because she was paying Mark Elias not for legal services. It was oppositional research, campaign research, mislabeled. She should be charged with felonies for those, right? According to Alvin Bragg. Now, Elias also ran their legal efforts to destabilize 2020. We covered a lot of that because they were suing in various states all over the country. Other current and recent board members of Netter's group include John Podesta. You know who he is. Netter also worked, the guy who approved Strzok's payout, for Merrick Garland's DOJ from 2021 to 2025. He also opposed Trump's motion for a preliminary injunction to block the National Archive releases to the J6 committee, which was the lawfare committee, which was illegally constituted and only had people appointed by Nancy. Netter married another Democrat lawyer and activist called Karen Dunn in a ceremony that Merrick Garland officiated. One big, disgusting, incestuous family of Democrat communists. Dunn, who played a key role in the Hillary Clinton campaign and was widely considered a likely White House counsel if Hillary won, which she didn't. She co-led Barack Obama's presidential debate preparation team and led Kamala Harris for the vice presidential debate. That's a tall order there. Dunn started a law firm with Jenny Ray. And did you see Kamala Harris on Colbert? We don't play those Colbert clips because they copyright strike you, but that was brutal. It was one of the worst, I think, public-facing interviews that we've seen in recent memory. It was horrible. She has no personality at all, and it shows. But Dunn started a law firm with another person called Jeannie Rhee, one of the attorneys who worked on perpetuating the Russia collusion hoax. Dunn also clerked for Garland. Netter clerked for Breyer and others at the Court of Appeals. Congressional overseers were upset by the reward given to the hoaxers, remember? And demanded to know who signed off on them. But they were thwarted by officials who said, well, we don't know who authorized the payments, or just the government, and declined to respond to congressional inquiries, saying, the American people are rightly concerned, said James Fitzpatrick. He runs Center to Advance Security in America. The American people are rightly concerned about the Biden administration's targeting of conservatives while their political allies were given special treatment. These settlements are a prime example of the outrageous abuse of power endured by the American people under Joe Biden. Netter, of course, did not respond to a request for comment. He's probably on the phone with Mark Elias right now. Hey, Mark, what can I do? Tim Burchett, meanwhile, is digging into this. A subpoena has been requested. Tim Burchett posted online, said, I've asked James Comr to bring in double tag. All right, James, just to be clear, Representative James Comr, your tag, and James Comr personal, your tag, bucko, to bring in George Soros and his attorney, Leonard Bernardo, the dude we read about in the declassified Durham Annex, to testify before the Oversight Committee. If they don't show up, they should be subpoenaed. Thanks for covering this, Tulsi Gabbard and DNI Gabbard. Tulsi double tagged as well. So you guys are on notice. You got double tagged. Here is what the letter says. All right, Chairman Comr, thank you for your continued leadership on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. I am reaching out regarding new information showing evidence of a conspiracy to sabotage President Trump's 2016 election and presidency. As you know, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, writes Tim Burchett, recently declassified evidence of a conspiracy by former President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the national security apparatus to manufacture and politicize intelligence to subvert President Trump and the will of the American people. Included in this evidence is a concerning email, allegedly from Leonard Bernardo, an employee of George Soros plotting to discredit the incoming Trump administration in conjunction with Hillary. Considering the Open Society Foundation's continued influence on U.S. elections, I respectfully request you, James Comr, invite Mr. Soros and Mr. Bernardo to testify in a public hearing before the committee. Should they refuse the invitation, I encourage you to use subpoena powers. Americans deserve answers into the subversion of our institutions by malicious actors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, your dadgum friend, Tim Burchett, in the House. Happy to see that go out. We'd like to see some answers from those people. We got a new order from Judge Cannon that just came out. It's an interesting one because a lot of this has been happening behind the scenes, and now we get a little bit of a murmur, aftershocks of what was happening behind closed doors. She explains to us, this is the Ryan Ruth case, which is scheduled for trial coming up early in September, and he is now representing himself. Fired his lawyers, has other attorneys on standby, but she writes, this matter comes before the court because the U.S. government, Trump's DOJ, ex parte, okay, without notifying Ryan, in camera, meaning it's going only to the judge, and in a sealed motion, which means we're not seeing it, they asked for a protective order pursuant to the SEPA rules and the rules of criminal procedure. We got some classified documents, baby. Classified Information Procedures Act. Cannon says the court has reviewed the government's motions, SEPA, and the rules. We're very familiar with this because Cannon, of course, handled the classified documents case, which was all SEPA. Upon review, the court grants the United States motion in its entirety. The court finds that the motion was properly filed ex parte and in camera. The court also finds that the U.S. has made a sufficient showing that the information at issue was classified pursuant to executive orders and its predecessors, and that its disclosure could cause serious damage or exceptionally grave damage to the national security of the United States. What? Is he a foreign agent? Finally, the court finds that the United States properly invoked the provisions of SEPA and its classified information as required in the order. And so, accordingly, the United States motion is granted. The United States motion and all accompanying materials are now sealed and shall remain preserved in the custody of the classified information security officer, all ordered in chambers by Judge Eileen Cannon in Florida. So another weird one that is happening out there. Dan Bongino came out with an update from the FBI, saying an update for you all on Operation Summer Heat, our violent crime takedown push all across America. He says this continues to deliver results, highlighting our ongoing intelligence-driven enforcement efforts. Dan says we're seeing real impact where it matters most, in the communities we serve. He says, well, just this week, your FBI teams arrested 80 people and located 14 victims of child exploitation. These included the arrest of an international fugitive wanted for the abuse of minors overseas who was living right here in the U.S., and another convicted offender in Florida who was using the internet to access CSAM materials. We also arrested an Ohio man on charges related to threatening to eliminate a U.S. congressman, and helped our law enforcement partners in Washington find a suspect responsible for shooting a law enforcement officer on the Lumi Reservation. These highlights are just one piece of a larger picture. Since the kickoff of Summer Heat in late June, the FBI and our law enforcement partners seized 8,200 kilograms of cocaine. Hunter, hardest hit. That's more than 18,000 pounds, with an estimated street value exceeding $820 million. That's real impact, driven by coordinated effort enforcements. And so by the numbers, we got 2531 violent criminals arrested, 340 child victims located and identified, 640 plus guns now out of the hands of criminals. And I've said it before, and I want to reiterate it again. Summer Heat reflects our focus on identifying and disrupting violent crime trends with real-time data to drive enforcement efforts. It's about staying ahead of violent crime and stopping violence. We have much more to do and deliver God bless America and all those who defend her. All right, so good update from Dan on Summer Heat. Now, here was James Comr. He got the letter from Burchett, and he's saying, we're looking into this. James Comr over from Congress.
And Congressman, as I mentioned, FBI Director Kash Patel announced that he found burn bags of Trump-Russia hoax documents in a secret room. One of the documents officials found was the classified annex to former special counsel John Durham's final report, which includes the underlying intelligence he reviewed. So I guess it's kind of an annex section of that report. Now, Congressman, maybe it was just duplicated and you do burn things. I mean, that is not, I don't want to make it like you don't ever have burn bags. You do have burn bags in the government. But what do you make of this?
Look, I knew all along that the Democrats would try to destroy any evidence that would make them liable in this Russia hoax. We knew it was a Russia hoax. Fox knew it was a Russia hoax. You did a great job, Laura, reporting the facts about this Russia hoax. Now Kash Patel, who, by the way, is the right guy for the job, he's in there. We've got John Radcliffe in there, Tulsi Gabbard's in there. They're all trying to get the truth to the American people and hold people accountable. It's not just about the fact that we've proven they lied all along to try to hurt Donald Trump and destroy his presidential campaign. It's about the fact that they've lost confidence. We've lost confidence in the intelligence community. We have competent people in there now. We want them to pay a price. We want the Comeys and the Brennans and those guys to pay a price for what they did. It's illegal.
That's
it's wrong,
right.
And
we
they
do
need to be held accountable. And I think Kash Patel
you can
is
say
on
that
the
again.
right track. And God bless Kash Patel and John Radcliffe.
All right. James Comr is explaining that he wants some consequences and some action, and so do we. Now, here was Lindsey Graham, who is also responding to this. And Gunther Eagleman is saying, you know, it's pretty interesting to see Graham running his mouth like this when he's implicated in corruption too. Maybe he'll show up on this because, as we know, a lot of this seemingly was seeded by Ukrainians in some of the original intelligence. The reporting on the Russian influence came apparently from some Ukrainian sources. So maybe it wasn't actual good Russian information, it was Ukrainian misinformation. And who's been one of Ukraine's biggest fans? Lindsey Graham.
Well, so number one, the warrant against Carter Page that was sought by the FBI, 3 of the 4 applications to the FISA court were signed by Comey. The FBI had information that the Steele dossier was politically motivated. It was the exclusive basis for the warrant against Carter Page. The subsource, this Danchenko guy who gave information to Steele, told FBI agents his hearsay is bar talk. It was never meant to be used in a legal proceeding. That, in spite of all that, they got warrant after warrant after warrant. So what did Page tell Strzok in August after Crossfire Hurricane opened up on July the 31st? Page, he's never going to become president, right? Strzok, no, he won't. We'll stop him. These are the 2 people leading
FBI
Crossfire
lovers.
Hurricane. But what's important tonight is that for the first time we know that in January of 2016, Debbie Wasserman Schultz apparently meets with the Soros Foundation to talk about a plan to distract from the Clinton email scandal. And there's a statement where Obama said, I'm not going to have my president tarnished by the Clinton email scandal, suggesting to Comey and everybody else, you need to let this go. And at the same time, we now know from an email that Hillary Clinton, to distract from her own email scandal problems, set up the narrative that became Crossfire Hurricane, blaming Trump of being a Russian agent. And they planned this, coordinating between the campaign and this organization to create this storyline. That's what's new. I've never heard this before. I did not know that the Russians had hacked into the Soros Foundation and they had conversations between Democrats and the Soros group to set up a plot to say that Trump was a Russian agent. And it was known before Crossfire Hurricane the FBI was going to provide oil to it. So this was a conspiracy to blame Trump from being a Russian agent.
Wow, Lindsey
to
Graham
distract
just
from the Clinton
finding
email
out.
scandal to affect the outcome of the 2016 election.
Wow, amazing.
And then after they lost the election, then the real intelligence that...
Yeah, so then they'll play their little Pattygate game back and forth over there on Fox. Lindsey Graham is like one of the most experienced senators of all time. And he's on, I think, not the Intelligence Committee, Budget, Judiciary, Appropriations, and Environment. So maybe he's not on intelligence. Maybe he did not get this intelligence and he's just learning. I have my doubts about that. So he's just shocked that it's now in evidence that they were doing this. We've got our doubts about it. Anyways, that's Senator Lindsey Graham. And now a lot of people are pounding the table who were in positions to know better. And they came out and told us that the intelligence agencies are amazing and the Russians are bad. And I wonder if Lindsey Graham believes some of that intelligence. Maybe some of that Ukrainian seeded intelligence is why Lindsey Graham is so in love with Ukraine, because he believes they're fake intelligence. But FBI delivering some good news. We're very happy to see these new disclosures, especially about this fella, Leonard Bernardo. Tim Burchett asking for a subpoena. We'll see if we get it, and we'll be here to cover it when it hopefully comes down.